The sound hits you first, a baby screaming. Not fussing, not whimpering. Full-throated, desperate wails that cut the quiet hum of a nearly empty diner. Rain hammers against the windows. A young father sits alone in a corner booth, hands trembling as he stares at an empty bottle in his diaper bag. His wife left 3 weeks ago. He has no idea what he's doing, and his baby won't stop crying. Every head in the diner turns. Every pair of eyes judges. And this man, broken, exhausted, drowning in shame, wishes he could disappear. What happened next left every person in that diner speechless. If you've ever felt completely alone in a room full of people, this story is for you. Drop a comment. You're not alone. His name was Rowan Brooks, and 3 weeks ago, he'd had a life that made sense. He had a wife. He had a plan. He had a 5-month-old son named Wyatt and a nursery painted soft blue with stars on the ceiling. He had the kind of confidence that comes from thinking you got things figured out, that you can handle whatever life throws at you. Then his wife walked out. No dramatic fight. No warning signs he'd recognize in time. Just a Tuesday morning when he woke up and she was gone. Her closet half empty. Her toothbrush missing from the bathroom. Wyatt crying in his crib, hungry and alone. The text came 3 hours later. I can't do this. I'm drowning. Don't look for me. That was it. No explanation beyond those 9 words. No discussion. No attempt to work things out. No acknowledgement of the infant son she left behind. Rowan tried calling. Every call went to voicemail. He tried texting. Read receipts showed she'd seen them, but no responses came. He even drove to her sister's house 2 towns over. But the sister claimed she hadn't heard from her. Maybe she was telling the truth. Maybe not. It didn't matter. His wife was gone, and Rowan was alone with a 5-month-old who needed things he didn't know how to provide. The first few days were a blur of survival. Formula instructions that might as well have been written in a foreign language. Diapers that leaked because he couldn't figure out the proper fit. Sleepless nights where Wyatt cried for hours and nothing would soothe him. Rowan's family lived in Oregon, 1,500 miles away. His mother offered to come, but she had his ailing father to care for. His brother sent encouraging texts, but had 3 kids of his own and a job he couldn't leave. Friends had drifted during the pregnancy months when he and his wife had isolated themselves, too overwhelmed to maintain relationships. His job granted him emergency family leave, 12 weeks paid. It was generous. It was also terrifying. 12 weeks to figure out how to be a single father to an infant. 12 weeks before he'd have to return to work and figure out childcare he couldn't afford. At 3 a.m. on the worst nights, Rowan would sit on the nursery floor with his laptop, searching desperately for answers. How to soothe colicky baby. Single father support groups. Why won't my baby stop crying? Am I a bad parent? The internet provided information, but not comfort. Tips, but not connection. Data, but not the human reassurance that he wasn't completely failing at the most important job he'd ever had. The shame was the worst part. Not just the exhaustion or the confusion or the fear, though all those threatened to drown him daily. It was a crushing sense that he'd failed at something fundamental. He couldn't keep his wife, couldn't soothe his son, couldn't even pack a diaper bag without forgetting something critical. Rowan Brooks had always been the guy with answers, the one who fixed things, the one people called when they needed help with a broken sink or career advice or someone to talk them through a crisis. Now, he couldn't even feed his own child without falling apart. That rainy Tuesday evening, sitting in that nearly empty diner, Rowan hit his breaking point. He'd chosen the diner specifically because it wasn't the kind of place anyone he knew would go. It was anonymous, quiet, the kind of establishment that existed in every small town. Vinyl booths with duct tape repairs, coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since morning, a laminated menu offering breakfast all day. Rowan needed to be somewhere that wasn't his apartment. The walls there started closing in, every surface a reminder of failure. The nursery where his wife should have been rocking their son. The bed where he slept alone now, catching maybe 3 hours a night before Wyatt's cries pulled him back to consciousness. He'd strapped Wyatt into the infant carrier, packed the diaper bag with supplies he'd triple-checked, and driven to this diner on the edge of town. ordered coffee he had no intention of drinking, slid into the corner booth farthest from the door. For 20 blessed minutes, Wyatt slept. His tiny chest rose and fell with peaceful breaths. His miniature fists curled near his face. And Rowan just watched him, feeling that overwhelming mixture of fierce love and complete inadequacy that defined new parenthood. Then Wyatt woke up and immediately started crying. Not the small, fussy sound of a baby who needed a diaper change or wanted to be held. The full-throated, escalating wails of genuine hunger. The kind that announced to everyone within hearing distance, this child has a need, and it's not being met. Rowan's hands moved on autopilot, reaching for the diaper bag. He'd prepared everything that morning. Clean bottle, measured formula, backup pacifier, extra clothes, diapers, wipes. He'd been so careful. His fingers found the empty pocket, where the bottle should have been. Ice flooded his veins. The bottle was in the car, on the passenger seat, where he'd set it down when he ran to the rain from the parking lot, hands full of carrier and diaper bag, and his desperate need to get inside somewhere dry. He'd left it, the one thing Wyatt needed most. He'd left in the car. Wyatt's cries escalated. That particular pitch that made people's shoulders tense, and their faces pinch with discomfort. Heads turned. A couple in the next booth whispered to each other, glancing over expressions that ranged from sympathy to annoyance. The waitress, mid-50s, tired eyes, approached with a tight smile. "Everything okay, hon?" The question was polite, but Rowan heard the subtext. "Can you make your baby stop crying? You're disturbing the other customers." "Fine," Rowan managed, his voice cracking. I forgot something in the car. Need me to grab it for you?" She was trying to help, but the offer only made him feel more incompetent. "No, He looked down at Wyatt, red-faced and wailing. Looked at the rain still hammering against the windows. Looked at his own shaking hands. If he ran to the car, he'd have to take Wyatt with him. Couldn't leave an infant alone in a booth. That meant unstrapping the carrier, going out into the downpour, getting them both soaked, fumbling with car doors and crying baby and rain in his eyes. Or he could try to make formula here, but the diner didn't have the right setup, and he'd probably mess it up, and everyone was staring, and Rowan's vision tunneled. His chest tightened. This wasn't just about a forgotten bottle. This was about every failure of the past 3 weeks crashing down at once. Every moment of inadequacy. Every time he'd wish someone would just tell him what to do. Every second of believing he was fundamentally incapable of this most basic human task. Caring for his child. His face burned with shame. Every eye in that room felt like an accusation. Bad father. Can't handle his own kid. Where's the mother? What kind of man can't even remember to bring a bottle inside? If you've ever been in public when everything falls apart and all you want is the ground to swallow you whole, hit that like button. Because what happens next proves that angels exist. They just wear scrubs instead of wings. Wyatt screamed. The rain pounded. The diner watched. And Rowan sat frozen, holding his son, wishing with every fiber of his being that he could just disappear. He wasn't crying. He was past crying. He was just frozen in a moment of such complete helplessness that he couldn't even think about what came next. That's when she appeared. Denise Everett had just finished a double shift at the county ER. 16 hours. 16 hours of trauma and chaos, and the kind of human suffering that leaves marks you can't see but carry home anyway. A car accident victim who didn't make it. A child with pneumonia whose parents had waited too long to bring her in. An elderly man who'd fallen and broken his hip, terrified and alone. She was bone-tired, the kind of exhausted that makes your body feel like it weighs 3 times what it should. Her scrubs were wrinkled and stained with coffee she'd spilled during hour 12. Her name badge, Denise Everett RN, was half tucked under her rain jacket. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. All she wanted was to go home, collapse into bed, and sleep for 12 hours straight. But she'd stopped at this diner because it was on the way and she was too tired to cook. She'd ordered soup to go, something warm she could eat without having to think. The kind waitress had told her it would be 10 minutes. So Denise stood by the counter, scrolling mindlessly through her phone, trying to disconnect from the day's horrors. That's when she heard the baby crying. As a nurse, and more importantly, As a mother who'd raised 2 kids alone after her husband died when they were 5 and 7, Denise recognized that particular sound. Not just infant hunger, father's desperation. She looked over and saw him. Young man, maybe late 20s, sitting in a corner booth with a screaming baby. Saw the trembling hands, the glazed look of someone who'd pushed past their breaking point. Saw the diaper bag open, the frantic searching, the moment of realization when he understood he'd forgotten something critical. Saw the shame coloring his face as the diner watched and judged. Denise had seen enough suffering for one day. God knows she'd earned the right to tunnel vision, to exhaustion, to picking up her soup and going home without getting involved in a stranger's crisis. But here's the thing about people like Denise. Compassion isn't something you clock out of. It's not a switch you flip off when your shift ends. It's woven into who you are, exhausted or not. She'd been where that young father was. Different circumstances, widowed, not abandoned, but the same bone-deep exhaustion. The same feeling of drowning, while everyone watched. The same desperate wish for someone to just help without judgment or commentary. So without hesitation, without debate, without consideration of her own needs, Denise walked over to that corner booth. The young father didn't see her coming. He was too focused on his screaming son, on his own failure, on wishing he was anywhere else in the world. Then a voice, low and kind, cut through the noise. "Looks like you've had a tough day. Mind if I help?" Rowan's head snapped up. His eyes, red-rimmed, exhausted, met hers. And his first instinct, the one drilled into men by a culture that equates vulnerability with weakness, was to refuse. "I'm fine," he said automatically. The lie was so obvious it would have been funny in any other circumstance. Denise smiled. Not pity. She knew how that felt and would never inflict it on someone else. Not judgment. She had no room for that. Just understanding. Recognition of shared humanity. "I'm a nurse," she said simply, "and a mom. Single parent for 8 years now. I've been exactly where you are. So let me help. Please." Something in her voice, the gentleness, the complete absence of condescension, the acknowledgement that helping wasn't charity but connection, broke through Rowan's defenses. He nodded. Couldn't speak past the lump in his throat, but he nodded, and Denise slid into the booth across from him. In that moment, Rowan learned something crucial. Accepting help isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. Denise assessed the situation with the efficiency of someone who'd spent decades solving problems in crisis situations. "Where's your bottle?" she asked, voice calm, matter of fact. "In the car," Rowan managed, voice breaking with humiliation. "I forgot it. I forgot." "Okay." No judgment in her tone. No exasperation. Just problem solving. "I have a spare clean one in my car. Emergency supply. Learn to keep backups the hard way. Give me 2 minutes." Before Rowan could protest, before he could tell her she didn't need to go out in the rain for a stranger, she was already sliding out of the booth and heading for the door. The diner watched. Some curious, some moved by the unexpected kindness. A few still wearing their judgment like armor against their own fear of needing help someday. Rowan held Wyatt, who was still crying but seemed to sense something had shifted. The energy had changed from desperate panic to purposeful action. Babies pick up on that, even when they can't understand it. 2 minutes felt like 20. Then the door opened and Denise returned, rain-soaked, holding a clean bottle and a small sealed package. "Emergency formula samples," she explained, sliding back into the booth. "Always keep these in my car. You never know when someone's going to need them." She set the supplies on the table and immediately went to work. Her hands, steady where Rowan shook, calm where it had been frantic. "Measured tea, water temperature is key," she explained as she worked, not lecturing but teaching. "Too hot, you scald their mouth. Too cold, they won't drink it. See? Test it on your wrist first." Rowan watched, mesmerized by her competence. By the way, she made something that had felt impossible seem suddenly achievable. "You're doing better than you think," Denise said without looking up from her task. "The fact that you're here, trying, showing up for your son, even when everything feels impossible, that's what matters. That's what makes you a good father." Something cracked open in Rowan's chest. Not breaking. opening, like a door he hadn't known was locked, suddenly swinging wide. Permission to be imperfect. Permission to struggle. Permission to need help and not be less of a man for it. "I don't feel like a good father," Rowan whispered, the confession escaping before he could stop it. "I feel like I'm drowning." "I know." Denise's eyes met his, understanding without pity. "I felt that way for 2 years after my husband died. Every single day felt like I was faking my way through, pretending I knew what I was doing, terrified someone would realize I had no idea and take my kids away." "What changed?" "I realize everyone feels that way. Every parent at some point is terrified they're failing. The ones who look like they have it together, they're just better actors." She finished preparing the bottle, tested the temperature one more time. Nobody knows what they're doing at first. We all just pretend until it becomes real. He formulated with practiced precision. She handed him the bottle, then guided his hands to the proper angle. "Support his head like this. Gentle tilt so he doesn't gulp air. That's it. You've got it." Wyatt latched on immediately, his cries dissolving into hungry gulps. The relief was instantaneous, not just for the baby, but for Rowan. The tight band around his chest loosened slightly. The noise in his head quieted. The diner had gone silent. Not judgment anymore. Witnessing. A moment of grace unfolding in real time. Denise stayed. She didn't rush off to her soup or her car or her well-earned bed. She sat there while Wyatt drank, sharing stories about her own early days of single parenthood, the disasters and triumphs, the moments she wanted to give up, the reasons she didn't. "You're not alone, Rowan," she said softly. "You just couldn't see the hands reaching out until now. If you believe the world needs more people like Denise, people who choose compassion when they could choose convenience, leave a comment saying, 'We need more Denises,' and share this story with someone who needs to hear it." Wyatt finished his bottle in record time, his tiny body relaxing with satisfaction. His eyes started to drift closed, lashes casting shadows on his perfect cheeks. Within minutes, he was asleep in Rowan's arms, truly peaceful, finally content. The weight in Rowan's chest, the one that had been crushing him for 3 solid weeks, lifted, not gone entirely. The grief, the fear, the exhaustion were all still there, but they'd shifted, made room for something else. Hope, just a sliver of it, but real. Thank you felt catastrophically inadequate for what Denise had done. She hadn't just helped him feed his baby. She'd thrown him a lifeline when he was drowning. She'd seen him, really seen him, in his worst moment and chosen compassion. "Thank you," Rowan said anyway, voice thick with emotion he couldn't hide. I can't." Denise waved off a stammering gratitude. She pulled a napkin from the dispenser and a pen from her scrub's pocket, scribbling something quickly. "New parent support group at the community center," she said, sliding the napkin across the table. "Thursdays at 7. Mostly single parents. Some couples struggling with postpartum stuff. All of us just try and figure out together. Show up if you can. Or just text me if you need to talk to someone who gets it." Her phone number was written beneath the address. An actual lifeline, offered without expectation or obligation. She didn't wait for his response, didn't make a big production of her generosity. She just stood, collected her now cold soup from the counter, and headed for the door. Before she left, she turned back one more time. "You're not alone, Rowan. You never were. You just couldn't see the hands reaching out until now." Then she was gone, back into the rain, disappearing into the night like the angel she was. Rowan sat there for a long time after she left, watching his son sleep, holding that napkin like it was made of gold, feeling the weight of the past 3 weeks shift from unbearable to manageable. The waitress came by, refilled his coffee without comment, smiled with new warmth. "That woman's a saint," she said softly. "And you're going to be okay. hon, I can tell." Another diner stopped on her way out. Older woman, grandmother type, kind eyes. "You're a good father," she said firmly, like she was arguing with someone who'd said otherwise. "Don't let anyone tell you different, especially not yourself." Rowan felt tears prick his eyes. These strangers, witnessing his worst moment, had chosen kindness over judgment, had seen his humanity before his failure. That night, sitting in his car in the diner parking lot with Wyatt asleep and his carrier in the back seat, Rowan cried. Not from despair this time. From relief. From gratitude. From the overwhelming realization that he wasn't as alone as he'd thought. That help existed. That people cared, even when they had no obligation to. He pulled out his phone and texted the number on the napkin. I'll be there Thursday. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. The response came immediately. Always. That's what we do. 3 words. But they meant everything. We live in a world that glorifies independence, that treats asking for help as admission of failure, that prizes self-sufficiency above all else and views vulnerability as weakness. Rowan's story reveals a lie in that thinking. Strength isn't doing everything alone. Strength is knowing when to accept a hand. Courage isn't never breaking. It's breaking in front of someone and trusting them to help you back up. Denise Everett could have ignored a stranger's struggle. After 16 hours in the ER, watching people die and suffer, she'd earned the right to exhaustion, to tunnel vision, to self-preservation. No one would have blamed her for collecting her soup and going home, but she didn't. She chose to see, to stop, to help, and that choice didn't cost her anything material. She didn't write a check or make a grand sacrifice. She just gave time, attention, and willingness, a spare bottle, some formula samples, 20 minutes of her life. That's all, and it changed everything for Rowan. This is a shock. That kindness could be so simple, so accessible, and yet so desperately rare. We walk past people breaking in public every day. We see the struggling parent in the grocery store, their child throwing a tantrum while they try to hold it together, the teenager crying in their car in the school parking lot, the elderly person confused by the self-checkout machine, the co-worker whose smile doesn't reach their eyes anymore. We see them, and we look away, not out of cruelty, out of discomfort, out of uncertainty about whether it's our place to intervene, out of fear that we won't know what to say or do, out of the modern habit of minding our own business, respecting boundaries, not imposing. But what if we stopped? What if just once we asked, can I help? What if we were willing to be Denise? True shock isn't about dramatic revelations or plot twists. Sometimes shock is realizing how desperately we need each other and how transformative it is when someone chooses to show up. Rowan did show up that Thursday. He walked into the community center with Wyatt in his carrier, terrified and hopeful in equal measure. Found a room full of other parents who looked just as exhausted, just as uncertain, just as grateful to have found each other. Parents who'd felt the same desperation, who'd experienced the same shame, who understood that asking for help isn't weakness, it's survival. He wasn't fixed overnight. Healing doesn't work that way. There were still hard days, sleepless nights, moments when the grief of his wife's abandonment crashed over him like a wave. But he wasn't alone anymore, and that made all the difference. He learned from other single parents, absorbed their hard-won wisdom, shared his own struggles, and found relief in others nodding with recognition. Built a community of people who saw each other's humanity before their failures. Months later, Rowan was in a grocery store when he heard a familiar sound. Baby screaming, father panicking. He turned and saw a young man, younger than him, maybe 22, standing in the formula aisle with tears streaming down his face, clearly overwhelmed. Rowan didn't hesitate. He walked over, Wyatt content in his own carrier now, and said the words that saved him. Looks like you've had a tough day. Mind if I help? The young man's relief was palpable, and as Rowan helped him figure out which formula to buy, how to prepare it, where the local parent support groups met, he felt something he hadn't felt in months. Purpose. This is how change happens, not through grand gestures or dramatic interventions, through one person, one moment, one choice to help at a time, through being willing to be Denise, through paying forward the kindness that saved you. If this story moved you, share it. Someone in your life is struggling in silence right now, and they need to know help exists. Drop a comment telling me, have you ever been someone's Denise? Or has someone been yours? Let's celebrate the helpers. And subscribe to Earthly Tales for more stories about the small moments that change everything. That rainy Tuesday evening in a nearly empty diner, a father sat drowning in shame while his baby cried. A nurse who'd every reason to go home instead chose to stay. And in that choice, salvation arrived. Not with fanfare, not with headlines or recognition, just in scrubs and rain-soaked sneakers, carrying a spare bottle and the radical gift of, I see you and you matter. Sometimes that's all it takes. Someone willing to see, someone willing to stop, someone willing to say, you're not alone. In our darkest moments, salvation often looks like a stranger who chooses compassion over convenience. Be that stranger. The world is desperate for more Denises. See you in the next story. And remember, we need each other more than we admit. Asking for help isn't weakness. It's the most human thing we can do. Red Heart,